That is such a great video, isn't it? I really, really love that. Ben Land pulled that one together. Where are you, Ben? Yeah, I can't find you. Just out the back. Okay, well, anyway, well done, Ben. Thank you for doing the video. Absolutely love it. Welcome, everybody. So pleased that you're here with us this morning. If this is your first time, basically what you will get is just a little kind of backstage pass into why we do what we do as a church. And so I hope that you still are able to follow and find it helpful. But I think it's really important that we should be reminded of what's important as a church and why we do what we do. So if you weren't here last week, I'd love for you to be able to go online to forgechurch.com and just catch up on last week's talk, because it will help to make sense of much of what goes on here as Sunday. But if you weren't here, let me just very quickly pick up. We spoke about our mission as a church, which is to help people to find and follow Jesus. We think Jesus is so significant, so special, that we want people to discover who he is, what he's done for each one of us, and then to follow Jesus. And we have a vision, and a vision is what we see in the future that we try to drag into the present to be able to say, this is the kind of community that we want to be. And our vision is this: to be a church community that unchurched people love to be part of. Which means that if you are someone who's visiting today, if this may be your first time or only been coming a few times, we are so glad that you're here, because we want to be a community where you feel included, where you feel that you can belong even before you believe. So that's what we kind of covered last week. So today what I want to do is I want to go back to our mission, which is to help people find and follow Jesus. And I really want to pick up on that latter part, to help people to follow Jesus. So what does it mean to follow Jesus? What does that look like? And how is it that we grow in our faith? So when we say yes to following Jesus, saying, yes, Jesus, I believe that you died for me. I ask you to forgive me, and I want your spirit to come and live within me. What's next? What does this following Jesus bit look like? How do we grow in our faith, and how can the Forge play a part in that? So what does it mean to follow Jesus? First of all, just this idea of following. We are used to this because it's social media language, isn't it? That we follow people and people follow us. So I would be really interested. Would you mind? How many people are on social media? Can you just put your hands up? Okay, if you're watching online, I'm really sorry I can't see your hand, but you can still take part. Okay, okay. So if so, get your phones out, because I want to find out who's the most popular person here who has the most followers. So you can choose whichever social media account that you want, and then we'll just. Is it possible just to have the house lights up, just so that I can see? Because I think it's really important to know who's the most popular. Okay, so are you ready then? Here we go. So if you have more than 500 followers on social media, can you put your hands up? Okay, so that's quite a few of you. Okay, that's good. If you have more than 700, can you put your hands up? Okay, I can see some at the back and some down here as well. Okay, if you have more than 1,000 people following you on social media, put your hands up. Still some at the back down there, still one person down here, someone over there as well. If you have more than 1,200, you're too popular because you've beaten me. No, we'll go. So let's just find out. How many have you got? 1,200 and okay, 1,200 and something. Over there, yes, at the back. 1,400. Yes, man. 1,500 and 1,700 down here. Any more bids on 1,700? No, we're not doing that one. Go on. 7,600. What? Unbelievable. Anne is the most popular person here by far. Congratulations. There we go. So we know what it means to follow a person, okay? And if you haven't, you just need to start following Anne from now onwards, I tell you. Be in the in crowd, okay? But what does it mean to follow Jesus? Because I think it's a little more complicated than a click of a button to say follow. So what does it actually mean? Well, when Jesus was walking here on earth, he called people to do just that, to follow him. This was before social media. Jesus called people to follow him. So he came across two guys who were busy mending their fishing nets. These boys were fishermen, and they were probably late teens. One was called Andrew, the other one was called Simon. And Jesus comes up to them, and it says this, and he says, "Come follow me, and I'll show you how to fish for people." Well, that's a weird statement. But then look, even weirder. And then they left their nets at once and followed him. And then Jesus was walking, and he came across another guy, a guy, we would know him as Matthew, who wrote one of the accounts of Jesus' life, but his original name was Levi. And so he goes up to Levi, this tax collector, and he says, "Follow me and be my disciple." So Levi got up and followed him. So to follow Jesus for those guys was very literal. That they just dropped whatever they were doing and they then followed Jesus. Now, for you and I, that just sounds weird, doesn't it? And imagine going into work and you know, you're busy doing your job and Jesus comes along and says, "Come follow me," and you just quit your job and off you go. It's like, that's just weird, isn't it? Well, it would be within our culture, but within the culture of Jesus' day, this was actually quite normal. Mainly because Jesus was recognized as a rabbi or a teacher. He was known and recognized as that. And rabbis would choose disciples. They would choose people to be with them, to learn from them, so that they can do what the rabbi does and that they can be just like the rabbi. So they would have someone that they would choose, the best of the best, that they would work out who is doing so well in life, who can ask the best questions, who has the best knowledge of the scriptures. And they would choose that person and they would say, "You come and follow me." And quite literally, that is what the best of the best would do. It was the most privileged role and position you could have within their culture. I was trying to think, what would it be like for us today? It would be a little bit like Pep Guardiola going to a college and just seeing a whole bunch of boys playing football. And Pep coming up to them and says, "Boys, you need to come up to Manchester with me. Come with me now." Which boy who was playing football would just say, "Well, actually, I've got to finish my college course first"? No, they wouldn't. They would say, "I'm with you." And they would just go straight away, stuff the college course. I want to play under Pep Guardiola. And so that's what was going on. What was unusual when it came to Jesus asking people to follow him was this, that his disciples were the people who had already been overlooked, the ones who weren't good enough, the ones who didn't make it. These were ordinary, everyday people, fishermen, tax collectors, people who had pasts, people who had doubts, people who had fears. So this is extraordinary, when Jesus called them, they jumped at the chance. They absolutely jumped at the chance. Why? It's because he believed in them. When a rabbi chose a disciple, the rabbi looked to see, could this person be like me? Now, what blows my mind when I consider this idea of Jesus calling people to follow him, Jesus calls you and me to follow him. What is so extraordinary is this, is that Jesus believes in you. Jesus believes that you can become like him. You sit there and thinking, don't be ridiculous, because we live with all of our doubts. We live with all of our fears. We know the mess ups and the struggles that we have in life. But Jesus is able to see through them or over them, to see the potential of who you and I can become. And so still today, maybe not in the literal sense that the disciples first did, he still says to you and me, "Come, follow me, because I believe in you." See, to follow Jesus means learning from him, doing what he did, becoming more like him. And he believes that you and I can. I don't know whether you've ever met someone who genuinely believes in you. I don't know if you've come across those people who see the potential in, or who have seen the potential, and they have given you opportunities that you would have never thought that you would be able to have. And you would think that because of our own weaknesses and our own doubts. You know, I am able to be where I am today because people believed in me despite my doubts, my mess ups, and my fears. 3 people here. They're old boys now. Victor Jack gave me leadership responsibility on youth camps at Sizewell Hall because he said that he saw leadership within me. Nigel Taylor there in the middle, he used to head up an organization called CYM in Ipswich, and they used to hold youth celebrations, and there used to be between 600 and 800 young people gathering together. And he said, Steve, you lead worship, you lead the band and do that. And with my 3 chords and my capo, I had a go doing it. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. I was about 22 or 21 at the time. Doug Barnett, he used to work for the Salt Mine Trust, who I spent 3 years working with. And Doug said after 2 years, he said, Steve, stay on. You stay on because you'll be able to learn to develop speaking and other gifts if you stay on for 1 more year. And he believed in me, and I am so grateful to these men. So grateful to them. They saw potential when I struggled to see it myself. The disciples were the same. They had doubts and fears and flaws, yet because Jesus believed in them, they went on to change the world. They really did. Over time, the values that they lived out and the message which they took out to the people has actually reshaped society. 3 images there. That because of Jesus' teaching and because of the disciples who wanted to be like Jesus, women and children were valued. Whereas before, that they weren't. They were seen as nothing. For those on the margins, for those who were homeless, for those who were poor, well, the disciples showed an immense care for those people. And that has spread. And so we have compassion for those people. Why? Well, it's because of the ethos and the values that those disciples then shared following Jesus' teaching. The sick were shown compassion. Work was seen as something to be done for God, not just for our bosses. And it changed the world. Our worldview is so deeply shaped by Jesus' teaching and his disciples who then took that message further afield of love, forgiveness, of truth, of compassion, and of honoring others. So before Jesus returned to heaven after his death and his resurrection, these were the last words that Jesus spoke. And in a sense, this gives us a picture of what it means to follow him. He said to his disciples, therefore, go and make disciples. In other words, replicate yourself with others. Make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Teach these new disciples to obey all the commands I've given you, and be sure of this, I am with you always. So this is our goal as a church. Why do we do what we do? Well, it's off the basis of this command that Jesus gave to his disciples before leaving. That we want to make disciples. We want to see people find and then follow Jesus. Which is why we gear our services as we do, which is why we run Alpha, which is why we do so many things within the life of the church. Baptizing them, that was it was the mark of a follower of Jesus. If you wanted to know whether someone was a follower, had they been baptized? Absolutely. So if you're a follower of Jesus and you haven't been baptized, then I want to call you today to say, what's stopping you from taking that next step? It's something that Jesus commanded us to be able to do. We do it as a church. Our next baptisms will be on Easter Sunday. They'll be taking place outside. The water will be warm. The sun will be out. It will be absolutely beautiful. But that's why. So we baptized 15 people last year. We baptized 17 people the year before. Honestly, I just love to see more and more people showing that they're followers of Jesus through being baptized. Then it says, teach these new disciples to obey all the commands I've given you. Our role as church is to be able to take the message of Jesus and apply it to today. So Jesus set out principles, and then we're to explore and to discover, what does that mean for my life and your life? What does it mean at work? What does it mean within family life? And then it says, be sure of this, I am with you always. It could feel very intimidating without that last bit. The weight would be so heavy, but Jesus' promise is that he will be with us. In fact, I believe that he is with us right now. So how does this work out practically? Well, how do we grow our faith? And how can the Forge help in our faith being grown in Jesus? A year or so ago, Sarah and I watched the Channel 5 program called The Secret Life of Trees. There was absolutely nothing else on telly. No, it was quite good, actually. It was a 3-part series. And over those 3 parts, basically they explored how trees grow, how they survive, how they communicate, which is really, really interesting, and why it's so vital to why they're so vital to our world's ecosystem and to the environment. And they showed how you could test the health of a tree. But they also highlighted something which I kind of already knew, and that was to work out the age of a tree. And, you know, to know the age of a tree, you normally have to cut it down to be able to see the rings. And each ring represents 1 year of growth for that tree. But what they did was that they highlighted that where those kind of rings are really small, it shows that the tree was under stress during that year, hence it hadn't grown as much. And so what they were able to do, which I thought was really fascinating, they looked at one tree and they counted the rings in, and they went back to 1976, which was when it was an incredibly hot summer and there was very, very little rainfall. And there was the very narrow ring of that tree, because the tree had been under stress. They could sense a whole load of things just by looking at the tree as to what was going on in the world at that time. But they highlighted this, that for a tree to thrive, it needs sun, it needs water, it needs nutrients, it needs soil, it needs a good root system, and it needs the ability to keep certain bugs from infecting the tree. And I was thinking as I was getting ready for this morning, in the same way, for you and I to grow, we're going to go through years or certainly periods of our life which could become very, very difficult. And, you know, if I was to cut you in half, I wouldn't do that. But there would be evidence where perhaps growth wasn't as great as other years. And it might be through the tough times. It might even be through the good times that the ring kind of width is really small. Because faith is a journey. Faith is a journey. So what is it that we need to keep our faith growing? Just as a tree needs certain things, what do we need? Well, I think that there are 4 catalysts for our spiritual growth. 4 things that will help us to keep moving forward in our faith, growing in our faith as we look to follow Jesus. Real relationships, new mindsets, better habits, and brave moves. I want to go through these 4 things very quickly as we over these next few minutes. The first one, real relationships. We need each other in order to grow. Faith is never meant to be lived in isolation, even if it feels somewhat easier at times when we kind of hit clashes with people. But we need people who will encourage us, who will check in on us, who will occasionally ask us the tough questions to make sure that we are keeping focused on following Jesus. A man called Solomon wrote these words. I just love this. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. that if you want to stay on track in following Jesus, you need people in your life who will sharpen you, people who will encourage you, people who will, hold you to account as such in your walk with Jesus. You know, people who you're happy for them to know who the real you is, warts and all. Not just the cover up that we put, but actually who really know us. We need people who are for us, people who will keep confidentiality so what's shared doesn't get gossiped around, and people who will stand with us when life gets tough. Often when people drift in their faith, or if people make unwise decisions which they later come to regret, it's often because they don't have those trusted relationships where they're really honest about what's taking place in their lives. Now, as a Forge, we can't manufacture those deep relationships, but what we can do is to create environments where those relationships can grow. So, how do we find these people? Well, at the Forge, we want to encourage people to attend services like this. It gets us to meet people, especially with having coffee afterwards. We can get to talk with people. And it's not long before you start to kind of find, I like that person. I kind of identify. We kind of click. And so I think Sunday services play a kind of an initial part, but I think that it will leave it very shallow with regards to relationships. And so we organize what we call as midweek groups that gather together in probably between kind of 6 to 12 people, meeting each week, whether it's for 10 weeks or 10 months. Some of those are social groups, some of those are courses, some of those are study groups. But it's a chance for people to be able to build community, to get to know people definitely at a deeper level, where stuff can be shared of what's going on in our lives, and people can pray for us and we can pray for other people. It's central really to how we build community here at the Forge. And so if you're not part of one of those groups, I really want to encourage you. When it comes to Easter and we launch groups again, there'll be groups which will be available for you to join. Then please do join. Honestly, it's a great way in which can stimulate faith and growth in our lives. But the last one there is this thing called Running Mates. And Running Mates is not something that as a church we organize, but we do encourage, where maybe there's 2 or 3 other people that you really click with who will, maybe meet monthly. And we just ask each other the questions of, how's it going with your spiritual disciplines? How's it going with your relationships? What's your attitude to work like? Asking those kind of questions of each other where we can support and share. And I know a number of you are part of those groups, but lots of you won't be. And I think this provides the safest place for those conversations to take place. So I'd really encourage you to get involved in that. Over on our info table, we have these little leaflets called Running Mates, which gives you more information about it. So please, if you're not part of one, pick one up and then start to consider who would I be happy or prepared to let in to who I am as a person. So that's real relationships. I think we all need those relationships if we're going to grow. The second one was new mindsets. You know, following Jesus, it takes this huge shift in the way in which we view life. Jesus doesn't call us just to follow the culture of the day. He calls us, in a sense, to be countercultural and to be able to view life through the lens of Jesus. And that includes things like our money, recognizing that actually our money is not our money at all. When we become a follower of Jesus, we realize that this is what God has given to us to steward well on his behalf, because actually it's all his, it's not mine at all. And Jesus spoke about the importance of being generous. So we have to shift our mindset of money's for me, I need to make myself comfortable. That's what our culture would say. And Jesus says, no, you need a shift of mindset on that. A shift of mindset with regards to relationships, not seeing people as commodities as to what they can do for us, but as those that we can love sacrificially. You know, Jesus said this, love each other just as I have loved you, so you must love one another. And Jesus showed the ultimate love to us. A new mindset with regards to work, that, you know, rather than getting away with as little as we possibly can at work, no, the new mindset, a man called Paul wrote these words. He says, work willingly at whatever you do, whether that's paid work, volunteer work, homework, whatever. Work willingly at whatever you do as though you were working for the Lord. I tell you, that changes how we view our work and how we work. And then that last one there of worry. You know, what we worry most about is where we trust God the least. There is a battle going on, a battle for control over our lives, that we think if we can hold control of everything, then it's going to be all right. And actually God says, and Jesus says, no, you need to hand your life over to me. You need to trust me. Allow me to shape your life, not you trying to control. Because when you try to control everything and it starts to go wrong, what happens? We worry like mad. We live with huge anxiety. And Jesus says, don't worry. He says, don't worry, because you can trust me. Now, here at The Forge, we can't force mindset change on anyone. Only God can bring that to our lives. But we can teach what Jesus taught and apply it to everyday life. The Bible, you see, isn't about information, it's about transformation. So I said last week that when I was 8, I'd learned the 66 books of the Bible in song. So I was a great Christian. Now, that's whether you know the books of the Bible or not is irrelevant. It's whether we can take the Bible and apply the teaching to our lives. And that's why so many of our talks we would term as applicational talks, because we're wanting to say, what does it mean for us today? I love how Eugene Peterson translated Romans 12 verses 1 and 2. He does it so beautifully. He wrote this. He says, take your everyday, ordinary life and place it before God as an offering. And don't become so well adjusted to your culture that you fit into it without thinking. That's what can happen so easily. He's saying, be on guard for that. Instead, fix your attention on God. You'll be changed from the inside out. It's a change of heart, a change of mind, a change of mindset. The third thing which we need if we want to keep growing and taking steps forward towards Jesus is this, it's better habits. Habits are really powerful. We all know how easy bad habits are to pick up and how hard they are to break. That could be whether that's smoking, that can be whether it's biting your fingernails. It might be when you just have a little phrase that you keep on saying. A little while back, I used to say all the time, but I didn't realize it. I used to say, so good, so good. I did, and I would keep saying that, so good. And my son-in-law would just pick up, and he would just keep putting it into conversation and then just smiling at me. And so therefore I've worked so hard to not say so good. So what's our flipping first song today? So good. Oh, my life, it's not good news. It's not good news. Habits are hard to break. That's why, do you know what? It was so encouraging to celebrate stories like Wayne Wiltshire's. I don't know if Wayne is here today, but yesterday there was a party that marked 2 years of his sobriety. He'd been an alcoholic and 2 years clear. He was surrounded by friends from the Forge who were just cheering him on. That is just brilliant. That's breaking a bad habit, and Wayne is putting good habits in place. You know, in following Jesus, we're called to certain better habits that will help to grow our faith and trust in Jesus. And Jesus spoke about this, the New Testament writers spoke about certain habits or spiritual disciplines that some people call them. Let's just call them habits, because as soon as you say discipline, no one wants to do it. So let's call them habits. So Jesus spoke about when you pray, spoke about when you fast, when you read and study the scriptures, when you read the Bible, that is, when you share your faith, when you meet together. He spoke about these different habits that will help us in our walk with God. Now, do these habits work? Well, take a listen to Kerry's story.
Hello, I'm Kerry. I am married to Andrew. I have 3 children, so 2 boys and a girl. My job at the moment is an operations performance manager, so I work within the healthcare sector and the training sector, looking after the people that deliver those like apprenticeships, particularly within nursing and healthcare. So I've sort of been around faith and Christianity for a lot of my life, and I think for me, I've sort of would always introduce myself as a Christian. A few years ago, especially during COVID, I sort of lost my faith a little bit actually. I would say that I really struggled to connect, and we had a bereavement within my family. My husband's brother passed away really suddenly, and that was at the same time when I was working in intensive care with COVID, and I think at one point we had hundreds of ventilated patients that were seriously unwell, and it was just a real time that I struggled with my faith. So recently I've been coming to the Forge, and that's really helped me like with my connection with God again. I've been thinking about it for a little while. I'd seen you guys on social media, but actually I have friends that attend the Forge already. So for me, the first day, like walking through those doors, I found it really easy because there was friendly faces, there's people that I knew, in particular people that my husband plays cricket with, so that was really lovely. But the first day back, I just had this overwhelming sense of belonging. I think I spent the whole service in tears, but I was so pleased that I had returned to that, and it just made a huge difference really. That first day back for me just changed everything. Once we had been a couple times, my husband Andrew started coming with us as well, so we all come every Sunday. My children absolutely love it. They're really involved. So does Andrew, my husband. He loves coming every week. He loves the services, and we've all started to really become involved in that community as well. So myself and Andrew volunteered. Actually, the children helped us as well. We did the Christmas hampers. I just recently have volunteered with the food bank project, so hopefully I'm going to be starting getting involved with that as well. My eldest is going on the camp, the Revolutions camp as well, so he's really looking forward to that. So we're all sort of really getting involved in that church community. After a few weeks, I saw a VT for the Alpha course, and I think it was just something that struck me. I thought, actually, I would say I'm a Christian, but I really would like to learn more about my faith, and if I have any questions, it was a really nice place where I could ask those questions during that time. And it just, again, helped me sort of like become part of the community, and I met new people that I hadn't met before who also had similar questions to me and just were like at a similar stage with their faith as well. So I found that really inviting because I didn't feel like I was coming into a church where everyone was already there with their faith. It was like some people were on a journey with their faith the same as me, and I found that really encouraging. I've started picking up my Bible regularly. I read different parts of that. I do some little bits of Bible plans. There's an app that I sometimes use called Lectio, and that is a great way. It helps me with my prayers. It helps me to sort of spend time with God even when I feel like I'm really busy. It helps me to stop and pause. I try to do it 3 times a day because it has 3 sessions a day. Some of them are like between sort of 5 and 8 minutes. It's really not a lot of time out of your day, and I just find that's helped me build that relationship. I would say I'm learning with like my prayers and talking to God, and that's really helped me with that app in particular because it has prayers on there that I can use. I feel like now I've definitely grown in my faith because of the things or the steps that I'm putting in place to try and make sure that I'm having that relationship with God. So things like making sure I attend church regularly has really helped me, and then just making sure I'm being really intentional with the things that I'm trying to do to make sure that I'm growing in my faith. Things like using the app, reading my Bible. That's just really made a really big difference for me. I don't think I would be where I am today if I hadn't have put those steps in place.
Fantastic. Kerry, thank you so much for letting us share your story. It's true that Kerry has been so intentional about some really good habits that have helped her. She's been through the tough time where the ring of growth will be very, very small. But now she is choosing to act on things that will help her to grow in her faith. Now, again, we just want to support you. We want to support you with these kind of better habits. So make church, make Sundays a priority, make group a priority of mixing and being with other people. But three different things which I think could be so helpful to you. One is the Bible app, the YouVersion Bible app. That has a verse of the day, and then someone for about 2 minutes just gives some, helps to apply that verse to our lives today. It has a little prayer section which will lead you through a prayer for the morning or the evening, whenever it is that you're wanting to do it. It also has Bible plans, and you can share those plans with others and comment. It is such a brilliant, I think 1 billion, it's been downloaded on 1 billion devices. I mean, that is just extraordinary. So make it 1,000,000,001 if you haven't already done that. We've got the one down here which Kerry was talking about, Lecto 365, a morning, lunchtime and an evening one where you can just play it and listen and sit quiet, and it will lead you through a prayer and it will lead you through scripture and kind of a short Bible passage, and it's done beautifully with music, so it just helps you to stop and just to remind yourself, I'm a follower of Jesus and I want to connect with him right now. We've also got Right Now Media, which is something which you can sign up to. Come speak to me afterwards if you're interested. And that has loads of teaching and amazing resources to help us to grow in our faith. The final thing is brave moves. Brave moves. Jesus never called us to a safe, comfortable life. He called us to a life of faith, which means that we need to step out with a sense of courage. James, the writer of one of the letters in the New Testament, faith by itself isn't enough. Unless it produces good deeds, it's dead. So don't just say, I believe in Jesus. No, we need to do something about it. We need to step out in faith. And if your faith is never challenged, you will get stuck, because growth requires brave moves. And a brave move will look different for each one of us. A brave move might be praying out loud for the first time. That might be a huge step forward as you tackle the fear of doing that. Maybe choosing to do Alpha, inviting a friend, leading a group, joining a serving team. All of those can be brave steps forward for us as individuals. Maybe it's speaking to a homeless person, just going up and just to say, hi, how are you? And maybe buy them a coffee. For some of us, that would scare us so much, but why not? It's a demonstration of love to a person who might be struggling. Giving generously, being vulnerable with someone, sharing your faith at work, apologizing and asking for forgiveness when we've messed up. They're brave moves. So my question to you, because I think when we do a brave move, that's where our faith gets stretched, because we need to rely on God rather than just on ourselves. So the question is, when was the last time you made a brave move that requires you to step out in faith and to trust God? As a church, we want to encourage all 4 of these catalysts for spiritual growth: real relationships, new mindsets, better habits, brave moves. And I implore you, don't settle for mediocrity in your faith. Don't get stuck in your faith. Learn from Kerry's example. Be intentional about these things. And then enjoy a flourishing relationship with Jesus. And one thing I am certain about is if you do that and you get to know him more and more, you will never regret it. So let me pray for us. Jesus, this idea of you calling us to follow you at times blows our mind, because we don't feel that we could ever be like you. And yet I thank you that you see beyond our fears and our doubts. And you see the potential in us, which is why you call us to follow you. And just as the disciples made a difference 2,000 years ago, which still affect our outlook on life today, God, you can take our lives and you can use us, that we can step out and make that brave move in following you, that we can do those habits, that we can have people around us to support us and to challenge us and to hold us to account. And Lord, we can see life in a different way through the lens of you. So please, God, would you help us to not stay static? Would you help us to keep following you? And would you help us to grow in our faith and our love and our trust in you? Amen.